Hi, I'm Dr. Marianne Armbruster. I'm an advanced master gardener with the Lafayette Parish Master Gardeners Association. Welcome to Get Growing, our horticulture lecture series, which is a collaboration between Lafayette Public Library and the Lafayette Parish Master Gardeners Association. Hello, thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about organic practices for the home gardener. So, what is organic gardening? That's a good question to start with, right? So we're going to ask a few more. Why do we want to garden organically? What products can we use to keep our gardens organic? Also, what is healthy soil? What do we do that harms our soil? And what can we do to promote healthy soil? So what is organic gardening for you and me? It's gardening like everybody did a couple of 100 years ago, basically. But it's easier now because you have new products that weren't available then. It's basically gardening without the use of synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, or herbicides. You can, however, use anything that is OMRI approved, OMRI, that is Organic Materials Review Institute. It's a nonprofit that tests and approves organic materials. And the things that are on the allowed list of the national list of allowed and prohibited substances. So why do you want to garden organically? I've heard lots of answers to these questions, like, it's more natural. Well, we know what we mean by natural, but I just want to add one thing in here. What does natural actually mean from a legal standpoint? And the answer to that is it doesn't mean anything. It has no meaning whatsoever because it's not defined in any law. Therefore, somebody can say something is natural, make a natural claim for something that's completely synthetic. It just doesn't mean a thing. So beware of that when you're looking at ads or labeling that says natural. But we know what we mean by natural, so it is more natural. It's safer, most definitely safer. It's better for the environment, and it improves and enriches the soil. Those are all really great reasons to garden organically. In addition, if you're going to all the trouble to grow vegetables, especially vegetables and fruits yourself, things that you're going to eat, why would you want to put the same contaminants on them that you can go and buy at the grocery store? So, if you're going to garden organically, how do you start? Well, first you learn about the soil, then you start making compost, and then you stop using synthetics. And it's just that easy, okay? So what is healthy soil? It's soil that's alive. It's got bacteria. It's got an active, healthy microherd. That's my word for all the little critters that live in the soil. The bacteria, the fungi, the protozoans, the arthropods, insects, earthworms, grubs, etc. The contents of 1 teaspoon of healthy soil can contain 1 billion, with a B, bacteria, several yards of fungal hyphae, a few dozen nematodes, several thousand protozoans. In a cubic foot of healthy soil, you should get about 50 earthworms. So if you're not seeing earthworms everywhere when you dig into your soil, it's not healthy yet, but you can make it healthy. Healthy soil starts with the plants. Plants produce exudates. These are released through the roots and leaves. They attract very specific species of bacteria and fungi to the root zone, the rhizosphere. There, the microherd feeds on those plant exudates and gives their own back to the plant. And here's just an illustration of places that can happen. First of all, at the tip of the root. The root cap is running along, pushing its way through soil. And would you believe those tiny little roots can exert more than 100 pounds per square inch of pressure while they're going through? So naturally, some of those cells get squished. And when they do, they die, and then their contents get released into the soil. Also, the plant produces mucilage, which helps the root move through the soil. But that mucilage also contains organic compounds that the plant can produce and the microherd can use. Produces soluble plant compounds that just move through the plant walls. Then there's loss of volatile carbon. That also goes through the plant walls. And here you see in number 5, you'll see the symbionts take up those nutrients. In this case, it's a fungal hyphae, but it could be anything. And then you have normal cell death illustrated at number 6. And again, when the cells die, they break down and their contents are released into the rhizosphere. Here's some really neat photos. These are electron micrographs. It's a photo of the rhizosphere, at an area between the surface of a plant root and the area surrounding it. There's bacteria and microorganisms and a little bit of soil debris filling the screen. This is a 10,000 times magnification. And here you can see more bacteria, and you can see how they're in a layer. That's because bacteria and fungi produce plant growth promoting substances along with slime. Doesn't sound real good, but it's an exudate that binds the bacteria to each other and to other things to keep them from getting washed away. They surround the soil particles, and that helps to maintain soil structure. Now, the bodies of the microherd actually serve as reservoirs for nutrients, little bags of fertilizers, preventing them from being drained away. When an organism dies, the nutrients are released and become available to the plant, and that's an ongoing process. The microherd also helps to protect plants from invading organisms by providing antibiotics and or pesticides to the plant. This is one of my favorite shots here. This is a root nematode. It eats the roots and creates disease. But you notice that it's being wrapped up by fungal hyphae, and because of that, it can't infect the root. Now, that's what happens in healthy soil. This is what happens in unhealthy soil. Notice there's nothing preventing that nematode from getting into the root and doing its damage. So you really do want those fungi there. And this is just a quick and very dirty overview of the soil web. Okay, you start with the plants. They use sunlight to create organic compounds, which are released into the soil. They are picked up by bacteria and fungi. The bacteria and fungi are eaten by larger nematodes and protozoans. And then the arthropods eat the nematodes, and the birds eat the arthropods, and the animals eat the birds, and then they pass their waste into the soil where it becomes food for the plants again. And if one part of that web is destroyed or damaged, it affects the entire web. You have to have enough prey and enough predators for everything to be healthy. So how do you switch over to organic? First, as I said, you stop using synthetics. And there's good reason for not using synthetics. There are many strong reactions that are possible, and they can be acute, delayed, or allergic. Acute reactions are immediate. They're usually reversible if treated in time. Delayed reactions, including cancer, can happen hours, weeks, months, or years later. There are 160 pesticides listed as potential carcinogens. They are known to cause lymphoma, leukemia, breast cancer, asthma, and other immune system disorders. The allergic effects are ones that are harmful to some people, but not to everyone. And it's a reaction to the substance, and it's personal. Children are more sensitive to synthetic pesticides than adults, and they're harmful to pets, wildlife, birds, fish, and the microherd. That's how you damage your soil. Every time you put something on the soil that's literally a poison, you're damaging the microherd too. It kills the bacteria and the fungi and the arthropods, etc. So, next is to learn about products that you can use. I'll give you some examples. BT. Bacillus thuringiensis. It's a bacterium which produces a toxin. This toxin is very specific for butterfly and moth larvae. It doesn't kill anything else. It's totally harmless to mammals, birds, fish, and beneficial organisms. It comes in many trade names. A couple that I can think of offhand are thuricide or dipel. But what you're looking for is Bacillus thuringiensis. And there's also a Bacillus thuringiensis variety israeliensis that is specific for mosquito larvae. If you've got open water, you can sprinkle this on the water and it will kill your wrigglers. The eggs may get laid and they may hatch, but they don't go any further than that. You can also use vinegar as an herbicide. Now, don't go using your grocery store vinegar. Go to the horticulture store or the ag store and get 20% vinegar. It's an effective herbicide which has no harmful effects on mammals, birds, or fish. However, it has very little residual effect. It kills what it does immediately, and it has no specificity. It'll kill any plant that it touches. Another insecticide is pyrethrum. It's derived from chrysanthemums. It breaks down in sunlight within 24 to 48 hours, but it is broad spectrum. It kills any insect it touches. However, it's relatively safe for humans. Then there's spinosad. It's derived from a bacterium. It doesn't bother butterflies and many beneficials. It's extremely safe for humans. It's effective for 5 to 7 days, and it breaks down in sunlight. It's excellent against caterpillars, leaf miners, fire ants, fleas, thrips, and more. Most importantly, you need to learn integrated pest management. Why? Because integrated pest management advocates using the least damaging product first. To do this, you have to identify the pest. For example, something's chewing your seedlings, cutting them off right at ground level. What is it likely to be? Well, it's most likely a cutworm. They come up out of the soil, mostly at night, and they damage baby seedlings. Once the plant gets to be a little bit larger, the stem is too tough for the cutworm to get through, so it's no longer damaging to it. But when they're really little, it will take them down like a scythe, really. So, what possible treatments can you use for the cutworm? You can use spinosad or BT or pyrethrum or paper collars. Which treatment would you choose, in what order, and why? Well, my first choice would be the paper collar because it harms absolutely nothing, but it protects your baby plants. You just take a piece of paper about 2 inches long, wrap it around the stem of the plant 2 or 3 times, and plant it so that 1 inch is in the ground and 1 inch is above the ground. It will eventually get wet. It will disintegrate as the stem grows. It's going to disintegrate away, so it's not going to hurt the stem any. But it'll last long enough to let the plant get large enough so that the cutworm can't bother it. Now, if for some reason you don't have any paper around, you could use BT. That's specific for caterpillars and harmless to others, including humans. And if you don't have any of that, you could use spinosad because it kills caterpillars and other things, but not so much beneficials. It has the 4 to 5 day life, and it's harmless to humans. And my last choice would be pyrethrum because it's absolutely broad spectrum. It kills everything it touches, but it's still relatively safe for humans with a 24 to 48 hour life. Okay, so what do we do to harm our healthy soil? Pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, synthetics, leaving ground bare, and tilling, turning, digging, and disturbing. So what can we do to promote soil health? Stop using synthetics, keep the soil covered, stop digging, tilling, and turning the soil. What? Don't turn the soil? But why? Well, first off, turning the soil exposes weed seeds, about 140 of them for every pound of soil that's turned. It exposes them to light and air, something that they have just been sitting in the dark waiting for, because without light and air, they can't germinate. So turning destroys the soil structure, exposes all of it to the air, and makes you wait to plant. If you really read the instructions, it says turn the soil and wait 2 weeks to plant. Why? Because once all that material is exposed to the air, it is literally burning up, and it's way too much activity for delicate seeds and small plants. You pop them into the ground right then, and they're very likely to die or not germinate at all. You just have to wait until that flurry of activities calms down. So it's better not to turn it at all. Also, if you work wet soil, it destroys the soil structure. It creates something useful for sculptures, not gardening. And it makes you wait until it dries some. Now here's how you know whether or not it's too wet. Okay, take a handful of soil. Press it down slightly. You don't want to try and squish it into your palm, but just enough to try and make it hold together like so. Now, if it won't hold together, it's too dry. If it holds together like this, the next step is to poke it. If it breaks apart like that, it's perfect. It can be worked. If it won't break apart, it's too wet, and you should wait to turn it, to do any work in it. Destroying soil structure means that the water only moves down or across. carrying nutrients with it and eroding the soil. So what happens if you don't turn? Well, water can then move to the advantage of the plant, which means down, sideways, or up. And I would like you, if you want more information on this, you can refer to these 3 and probably 10 other YouTube videos that sort of demonstrate it pretty well, okay? So what happens when you don't turn? You keep organic matter on the surface, which provides a soft landing for raindrops, making them soak in instead of running off. Moderates the effects of heat and cold, keeps weed seeds from germinating, prevents disease by stopping spores from splashing onto leaves and infecting, because if they don't get to the plant, they can't infect. Provides continual organic matter delivered by the shredders and the earthworms, and depending on the organic matter may provide nutrients, especially micronutrients, and it stops erosion from wind and water. So why wouldn't you want to leave the surface alone, covered with soft mulch and not turned? So working with Mother Nature is generally a whole lot less trouble than trying to fight her. So for the best results in the healthiest soil, keep surfaces covered with organic matter. Now, compost works very well. So to keep it healthy and active, make and use compost. So what is compost? It's just digested organic matter. What tools do you need to make compost? None really, but there are a lot available. So these are some things you should know about compost. Organic compost, good stuff. Single best supplement for your garden soil. A simple way to increase organic matter in the soil. A simple way to increase the microherd. Increases the concentration of nutrient-rich humus in the soil. It's free, or it can be. It's easy to make, really doesn't take much effort. It keeps nutrients in the soil longer instead of having them run off. And it supplies about 16 essential elements required for plants. Compost is good for the environment because it reduces the municipal waste stream. About 24% of normal waste that goes to the landfills could be composted. And the average American scraps about 1.3 pounds of food daily. That's about 13%. Only 8% of Americans compost, and that's including cities that compost. And then there's garden waste. That was for the kitchen. Then there's garden waste. You can use compost as mulch to control weeds, to control soil loss from erosion, to control soil temperature, to control soil moisture, to make it easier to work, to help counteract synthetic fertilizers, to help bring soil closer to a neutral pH. And compost, unlike synthetic fertilizers, is highly unlikely to ever burn your plants. So that's it for today. Don't forget to check the Lafayette Public Library website, LafayettePublicLibrary.org, and the Lafayette Parish Master Gardeners Association website, LPMG.org, for what's coming next. Thanks. See you next time.